Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. No matter where you're joining us from in the world, we thank you for you taking a few minutes of your time to join us here at Mountain Ridge Armory this evening for another one of our series in free webinars and free firearms education that we're offering to the public. Um, as you know, those of you who are watching this, and as I'm recording it, for those of you watching it in replay, thank you very much for watching this in replay, by the way, if you are. Uh, Today is 7/23/2020, and we're in the middle of a rather unusual social dynamic that's going on in the world right now. And among that unusual dynamic that's going on with the COVID-19 epidemic that's occurring, and the civil unrests that are occurring throughout the United States of America, we are seeing an uptick in the amount of firearms purchases and the amount of gun owners that are joining the ranks of those of us who have long been proponents of the Second Amendment. I'm a huge believer in the Second Amendment. Again, by the way, my name is Toby Gross. I am a instructor at a small security consultation firearms education business named Mountain Ridge Armory. If you care to see my credentials, you can check out some of my previous webinars where I've done the educational series over the past few months to try to do what little I can as a public service to everybody right now in this rather trying times that we're in, to share what little knowledge I have, and hopefully it'll help somebody. But short version is, I've been heavily training and heavily certified in not only firearms across the past decade or so, and been an avid shooter for my entire life. But I've also focused a lot of training and time and money and energy training in laws, legal considerations, mindset training, and so on and so forth. And so I wanted to take a few minutes tonight to talk through some of those subjects that relate to what's going on in the world today, and hopefully I can have some beneficial information for those of you out there who need it. How you doing, Midnight? Good to see you out there tonight. I appreciate the support. Appreciate all you viewers who are out there watching. And by the way, for those of you who are watching me this evening live, as we talk through some of these topics about reciprocity, hoping to touch on some interstate firearms travel, and maybe get into a little bit of the TSA topic. For those of you who are watching now, I see a number and a count of how many people are out there, but I can't see who you are unless you make a comment. And so if you're wanting to interact with me and wanting to let me know any questions or let me know that you're out there, whatever, please feel free to leave a comment in the channel over here beside of me, and I'll do my best to get to it and recognize your comment and maybe throw it up on screen, and I'll be happy to answer any questions I possibly can as time allows. But forgive me, you're a few seconds behind me on the viewer on this viewing, and I'm trying to coordinate all this and give you the hopefully some useful information at the same time. So forgive me if I don't get straight to your question. Again, if you're watching this replay, leave a comment below if you have any question in particular as relates to laws around interstate travel, reciprocity, and in particular the North Carolina laws for reciprocity and concealed carry. Leave them below, and I'll get back to you in future time whenever I see those questions posted up in my channel. That said, as I was mentioning in some of my credentials, I am, among all the other things that I am certified to do from a firearms instruction perspective, I am a North Carolina Department of Justice certified firearms instructor for the North Carolina concealed carry, handgun, and laws with regards to use of deadly force. Not only am I certified by the North Carolina Department of Justice to teach those topics, but I've also spent a considerable time and a considerable amount of my own money out of my own pocket receiving further formalized training in, again, mindset, laws, legal, that kind of thing. I take the Second Amendment very seriously. I take the ownership of a firearm and the carrying of a firearm even more seriously. While I do believe very much in the concept of the Second Amendment, the libertarian in me screams that your right to the Second Amendment ends when that projectile leaves that barrel. Same concept of your right to swing your fist ends when it touches my nose. And so those of you who don't take it as seriously and train are potentially a legal liability, as well as infringing upon the rights of other people and the infringing on the rights of other people's freedoms if you let loose lead or projectiles, or if you disobey laws and regulations that place other people in harm's way. So I'm doing this series to try to help educate some of those people, as well as to bring some knowledge. So Midnight Range said, TM said, reciprocity and FOPA are things that the new firearms owners nowadays need to learn about. I agree. So what prompted me to actually do this subject tonight is exactly what he just mentioned, is that the North Carolina Concealed Carry Handgun Training Manual that you go through only has this amount of information on reciprocity. What's up, grandmother and grandpa? How are we doing, Buck? Good to see you out there, by the way. Only has literally this much information. See this little paragraph right here. This is all the information that North Carolina shares to you for reciprocity. And all it says literally is reciprocity. North Carolina law allows residents of other states who carry a concealed carry handgun permit issued by their state to carry concealed handguns in North Carolina. And then it pretty much goes through talking about where to go on the website, the North Carolina NCDOJ website, to look at their laws and what the current reciprocity map is for North Carolina. And then it goes through a quick blurb about it's your responsibility to check the state where you're going for their laws and compliance to those laws with regards to concealed carry and with regards to reciprocity. So that's exactly the kind of thing that I want to talk through tonight, because as Midnight just mentioned, that is literally something that not a lot of people talk about, and not a lot of people are heavily involved in, or fully understand or comprehend as much as they should. I'll leave that and let it speak for itself for those of you who care to read that. And he brings up a good point, though. So when we talk through, he's actually getting ahead of me just a little bit on some of the things I was going to talk about obeying the laws where you're going and understanding the laws, whether it be with interstate travel, reciprocity, or with things like TSA. So, for example, there was a lady who was charged in New York, and I'll touch back on this if we get to the TSA topic. There was a lady who was charged, who was traveling legally and appropriately, and as she should, on an airplane with a pistol, and her magazine had a higher capacity than New York allowed. And the fact that the plane touched down, even though she never took possession of her firearm from the belly of the plane, she was in fact charged for breaking the laws. And that was an ancillary law, right? So she wasn't breaking the interstate travel laws, she wasn't breaking TSA laws, she wasn't breaking any rules or regulations, but she was breaking a law inside that state for an accessory that was carried with that firearm, and she was charged for that. Naturally, the NRA is jumping in to try to help her, and some of the other legal organizations are trying to help her. But nonetheless, the point is, he's actually kind of giving you, spoiler alert of some of the things we're going to talk about here in a little while with regards to some of those topics. So, I mean, the internet's a free place. It is kind of hard to kick some people out of here, but I definitely welcome the support. And yeah, I try not to leave it unlocked sometimes, but the dog's got to come in and out, so you got to let them in, let them use the bathroom. All right, so let's jump into some of the content and some of the information. And again, you're teasing on some of it already, and that's great. I appreciate the fact that you are. That's going to kind of help spearhead in, or kind of lead me into some of this stuff. But so North Carolina mentions, you can go to their website and you can look at the current reciprocity laws, and you can go down, you can drill down and look at what our laws are for concealed carry, what you can and can't do. Like, for example, can you carry in a place that serves alcohol, or can you not carry in a place that serves alcohol? Can you be drinking while carrying a firearm? No brainer, but that's a nuance as relates to carrying inside of that. So that's great information to be able to go directly to the horse's mouth, so to speak, and find out what that particular state's laws are. And by the way, this applies to every state that allows for concealed carry or open carry, either one. You can go directly to your Department of Justice website or your state's legal repository site and check out the laws. And as you can see right here at the bottom on this particular page of the NCDOJ, it lists states that recognize or have a legitimate agreement with North Carolina to allow reciprocity, to where if you have a concealed carry handgun permit inside of North Carolina, you can go to these states and carry your concealed carry there, and your concealed carry will be honored in those states. However, you are considered to be under the purview of their laws. And we're going to talk through that in just a minute. And I don't want to get too in depth into it and get ahead of myself. But right now, 36 states allow North Carolina or recognize North Carolina's concealed carry permit and will allow reciprocity to concealed carry in those states. 36 states. North Carolina, on the flip, recognizes that I'm aware of all 50 of the other states. I do know that they had a little hiccup with Virginia last year. I think that they've got that resolved. Anybody that knows differently or can speak to that, please, quote down below and let me know. Keep me honest there. So Midnight said, you've heard of people getting in trouble because of their flights having been routed to states where you couldn't carry, not their fault. He's dead right. So again, that's that interstate travel, and we're going to talk through that here in a little while, but he is dead right. Unfortunately, it's the same concept as we talk through some of these laws. It's the same thing as we talk through some of these laws, like, ignorance of the law is no defense. So if I go to Tennessee, say, for example, and I'm not allowed to carry in an establishment that serves alcohol versus like Las Vegas, Las Vegas, I think, and don't quote me on this, please, because I'm not an expert in Las Vegas law, but I believe it's something like if the establishment earns over 60 or 80% of their income is a direct result of alcohol sales, then you can't carry inside of that establishment. But here in North Carolina, you can. If a place serves alcohol, so long as you're not drinking, you're fine. So the state you're in, or that least common denominator law, is going to be the one that applies to you. And ignorance of that law is not a defense, just like Midnight was just mentioning. If you're in a law and if you accidentally break a law, you are going to go to jail for it. So let's talk through what you need to do then. So there's 36 states out there, and that's great and good and fine and wonderful. So what to do to find out, first off, if the state will recognize your permit. Secondly, what the laws are for that state. Third, what to do about those laws and obeying those laws, and some good tips and tricks that you need to know before you travel to that. And then fourth, how to get there, whether it be interstate travel via automobile or vehicle, or whether it be through TSA on the airlines. So good rule of thumb basically is, don't know who's doing the unboxing there, but let me know. That sounds like one of our crew there, and I'd love to see that unboxing there. Midnight's talking about an unboxing, and then Buck was talking about 2 pounds. 5 people, 2 pounds. That's a lot. So what I generally do is, okay, so I want to be abundantly clear. Abundantly clear. So listen to me very carefully here. The ultimate source of truth for any individual state laws for their firearms, their reciprocity, their concealed carry, their use of deadly force, etc., 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 is going to be on either their website, or by calling their attorney general's office, or by calling, state highway patrol, a local law enforcement or higher level law enforcement, state bureau of investigation, whatever the case may be. Getting in direct contact with the state that you're intending to travel to, whether via the website, their attorney general's office, et cetera, and getting the current, most recent list of the laws for the use of deadly force and the carrying of a concealed firearm in the state that you're going to, and every state in between. So I'm going to talk a little bit about how, when I traveled to Pennsylvania in years past, travel through Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, which is always fun, and then Pennsylvania. And we'll talk through a scenario of what we did there. So, and then what I would do is, after I've gotten those laws, or I've gotten that knowledge in my head of what those laws are for the states where I'm going to be traveling, and the use of deadly force in those, I'm then going to make sure that I print off a copy of the interstate travel, federal interstate travel laws, which is that's TSA. The interstate travel laws is what's the law number on that? That's right, 926A. I print off a copy of that 926A interstate travel law. And then I would also print off a current copy or have the Attorney General's office or whoever you're in contact with mail you a copy of the current laws for the states that you're going to be traveling in. Print those off as well and carry them with you. Reason being, in the rare off 1 in a million chance that they change the law in the interim of the time from the time that you did the discovery of the law and the time that you were accidentally in infraction of the law by breaking a law that they because they changed it in the interim state, then you can, in a court of law, prove that this was the information that you had available to you at that moment in time. And that is admissible in court. Is something that you can say, I printed it off. The Attorney General office mailed it to me, et cetera, et cetera. Here's the timestamp. Here's the metadata for that file, and makes it legal and legally binding to help you to kind of try to get out of that. That said, it's a pretty rare chance that that's going to happen to you in the interim, but still, I would rather be safe than sorry. Same concept if you're traveling with items like, say, the X Products cannon, or an arm brace for a pistol arm brace, or a vertical grip. I'm sorry, an angled grip on a pistol, AR-15 style pistol, as opposed to a vertical grip. It's not a bad idea to have those ATF laws printed off and inside the case with that firearm, because every law enforcement officer in the whole world and in all of America can't know every single law. It's just not possible. There's just too many of them. So do them a favor by having that with you, so that it reduces that amount of question and argument. So we got a bunch of talk going on here. Let's see what I'm missing here. Send Gmail, not a package, on bag. Midnight TM says our carry laws are weird now because we have been under a state of emergency because of the opioid crisis. We can't open carry without a permit. Normally you could, but I bet 75% of cops wouldn't even know that. You're right. So that's a very interesting dynamic too about the opioid epidemic and state of emergency being declared over something, like war on drugs, and declaring an emergency over it. Declaration of emergency does change the laws. It does not give them the right or the ability to take your firearm from you completely, but it does give them the right or the capability to change ad hoc and for a time-bound period of time to change those laws. So at any rate, where I'm going with all that is, and I'll get into a story of traveling again to Pennsylvania to kind of get a general idea and an overview of what you need to do to get that information, get it printed out, get it with you, and be in compliance with the law. But I do want to read you something real quick that I always teach to my students whenever I'm teaching the class. In all 50 states, and in any country that adheres to English common law, because almost all use of deadly force laws are common law versus statutory law. And if you don't know what the difference in that, it's a good Google. It's a good quick education. As well as any country that follows the Dutch Roman concepts. Heck, maybe even Russia. I don't know. But I guarantee you, any country that follows the Dutch Roman law or Dutch Roman concept, English common law, and in all 50 states of the United States of America, the prevailing, provable, absolute, rock solid, concrete concept for the use of deadly force. Now, not the mechanism of the use of deadly force, not whether it's a pistol. I'm not talking about whether it's a pistol, whether it's a knife, whether it's your hands, whatever the case may be, but the legal right under common law to be able to use deadly force in protection of yourself or those under the mantle of your protection is this. And I'm going to read it exactly verbatim so that it comes off exactly as it should. If you can prove that the assailant or the bad guy had the ability, the opportunity, and the jeopardy, an immediate ability, opportunity, and jeopardy, and can prove that you were in an immediate and otherwise unavoidable danger of death or grave bodily harm to the innocent, then you have the right to use deadly force. I'm going to repeat that again. If you're in an immediate and otherwise unavoidable danger of death or grave bodily injury or grave bodily harm to the innocent, Okay, you can't be the bad guy. You can't have started it. It can't be proven that you were using excessive force or anything like that. You can't have escalated, stepped it up, in any way, shape, form, or fashion. As long as you is immediate, otherwise unavoidable danger of death or grave bodily harm to the innocent, then you are under common law legally allowed to use deadly force in defense of the innocent. Okay, now just out of curiosity or just as a mental exercise, real quick, didn't have this pulled up, so I'm doing this on the fly. Uh, Hugely beneficial asset on that front. Hugely beneficial asset on that front. I strongly recommend. There we go. You spend, this is 1 hour and 49 minutes of your life well spent. Please, 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 if you don't do anything else that we talk about tonight, and if you don't listen to anything else I tell you tonight, okay, nothing else I tell you tonight, go watch this video. Spend 1 hour and 49 minutes of your life to watch this man, Masad Ayub, speak. Okay, I'm going to make that full screen. It's that important, right? Watch this video. This information can and does save your life, can and does provide you with a legal understanding of how the laws and the common laws and the rights to use deadly force across all states and all countries in the world is to be done. Okay, so if you listen to nothing else I tell you tonight, go watch this 1 hour and 49 minutes video. Now, back to the topic at hand, though. So understanding that no matter where you travel inside of the 50 states, all over the world, any English common law, Dutch Roman law, Dutch Roman concept, et cetera, no matter where you travel, understanding that you are going to have the right to legally defend yourself and use up to and including deadly force to defend yourself, is so long as you meet those criteria. The tool is what makes it different. So then that's where we're talking about, where can I carry a firearm and where can I not? So you've established that 36 states in the union allow for reciprocity with North Carolina, and that you can travel to those states so long as you have researched and so long as you're traveling to them and meeting all of their, I will do that. Midnight wants the link. You know what? It's like, that's almost a good thought there, buddy. Shame on me for being too stupid to do it. Thanks for calling me out on that, bro. There's a link to it. Really good information. Okay. So now let's pretend, like I said, that scenario that I'm going to be traveling from here to Pennsylvania, which has actually happened a couple times over the past few years for me to take some training courses, including some vehicle tactics, two-man tactics, high threat protection. Several times I've traveled to Pennsylvania several times across the last few years. So that means then that I've got to travel through Virginia, I've got to travel through West Virginia, then I've got to travel through Maryland, and then into Pennsylvania. All right, so here's how my thought process would go. Okay. Listen, we got to take care of each other, prop each other up. There's maybe between the three of us here, we'll have a brain cell or two. So good. Keep it. Anything that Masad Ayub writes, by the way, not to do a shameless plug for him, but I've taken the MAG 20 course on legal rights for armed citizens. Anything he does, and I mean anything he does, is gold. He is literally one of a kind, and there is no one else in the world who gives any information even close. Hey, Andrew, good to see you, sir. Thanks for joining us tonight. Love the hat in that avatar, by the way. It's totally my favorite. Good job, man. Well done. Well played, sir. So again, back to my scenario. If I'm traveling to Pennsylvania, and this has happened, this is a very real situation. So the very first thing I do is if I'm going to be traveling by vehicle, okay, I'm going to print out, understand, and travel with the 926A laws for interstate travel of firearms. All right, so this is going to trump everything except for those little nuances like we talked about with the New York thing with the high capacity magazines and things like that. Okay, so I'm going to find the least common denominator. So let's say I was traveling to New York, and I knew there was going to be a period of my travel where I had to skirt the edge of New York, and I knew that in New York they don't have any more than a 10-round capacity for the magazines. So I am going to try to adjust the 926A interstate travel law understanding and my plan accordingly. Okay. Same thing with TSA. And so what I'm going to do is general gist of 926A. I won't go too in depth about it because it's really more about reciprocity. But general gist, you can Google it and watch some YouTube videos on it. General idea is store the ammunition over here separate, make the gun inert to where it can't fire by either unloading it for sure, and or if you really want to go crazy, you can take the slide apart, lock it into a container like a Pelican case or a gun case of some kind, and put it to where a person of ordinary firmness or a reasonable person, a person of ordinary firmness is often defined in North Carolina as not genius, not dull, but normal. Unfortunately, usually that's the DA, and I consider them above normal. But to where a person of reasonable firmness would understand that you could not have reached it. You or anyone as a passenger around you could have reached it in such a fashion to be able to employ it and use it. That then would fall under they do, Buck. You're getting ahead of me, man. You're giving away all the good stuff. We're totally going to walk through that, but you're dead right. So good call, by the way. So make the firearm inert, lock it in a case, lock it somewhere where you or no one else in the car can reach it, and you have then, so long as you're meeting the other criterion of the least common denominator states, such as the 10-round magazines, et cetera, you are then covered under the umbrella of the federal 926A law. Now, could you get a law enforcement officer who doesn't know the laws and tries to make an example out of you? Absolutely. Could you get, a DA in an area who's trying to make an example of people who they pulled your license tag off a camera or off of a random, traffic check or a cop falling behind you who decides to make an example of you? Absolutely. Unfortunately, that's the risks of the world we're living in today. Will you win that legal lawsuit in the end? Yeah, probably. Will you have to spend thousands of dollars on a lawyer, potentially have to travel backwards and forwards to the state where you were in, potentially have to live with the ramifications thereof, lose your job, lose your home, go in debt, get behind on your bills? Yeah, probably. But that's a decision you have to make for yourself on whether you're going to travel with a firearm or not. And then you have to accept those as a grown-up adult, and you have to accept that reality, and you're going to have to punch through it and just deal with it. So me personally, when I travel, I do adhere to the 926A as I go through states like Maryland. So we'll talk about that here in just a minute. So I've established my least common denominator of the worst case scenario, whether it be New York, Maryland, California, whatever the case may be. And I've printed off a copy of 926A. I've researched it. I've got my Pelican case in the car. I've got the original boxes the ammo came in inside that Pelican case. I've got a spot to store my magazines. I got the ability to break the firearm down and put it into the case. Got lock or 2 or 3 or 12 on that case. I've got it in, locked in the trunk and ready to roll. Okay. Now, but I know that I can carry, coming from North Carolina through Virginia and West Virginia, that I can still carry in those 2 states. So here's where Buck got a little bit ahead of me, and good on you, Buck, for doing this. So then I'm going to start doing my homework and my research on the states that I'm going to be traveling through, stair-stepping all the way through them, okay? Now, a good place to start, as Buck mentioned, but not the authoritative, legally binding source, is those apps he's talking about. So for example, there's the Legal Heat app. You can search on Google Play or iOS. Legal Heat is a good app where you can just basically go in and tell it what state you have concealed carry permits for. You can go in and update the laws. And as you can see from some of the photographs of the app itself, it's got some training information. It's got a good quick breakdown of where you can and can't carry and laws inside of quick reference guides for each individual state. So it's a really good app, okay? But not the authoritative source. Just a good place to get started and get a rough understanding. And of note with the Legal Heat app is every time you're using it, if you'll download the most recent updates for the individual states you're running through, it's a free app too, by the way, it'll tell you the dates when it was last updated. Okay, so then when you go and cross-reference that either with the Attorney General's office or the state's website, which we're going to get to here in just a minute, you can check those dates and cross-reference them and say, all right, well, Legal Heat was up to date. Okay, so we're good. Another example of a similar app that you could use is called CCW, Concealed Carry 50 States. Now this one's a little uglier and a little dirtier. It doesn't do, in my mind, it's not as efficient and clean and easy to navigate and easy to use and as user-friendly as the Legal Heat or the USCCA app that we're going to talk about in a second, but it's still another good resource. So if I've went through Legal Heat as my homework and I've checked CCW, and I will do both, and I'll also do USCCA, and I see, okay, we're 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 matching up so far. Dates of when the laws are changed, rough ideas of what all the laws are in each in place, looking all the same. So far, so good. Okay. Then I'll go to the USCCA app. Now, in this particular case, we're going to use the website to finalize this example and to kind of step through the rest of the example for tonight and kind of the talk through reciprocity. I'm going to use their website instead of the app, but the app is equally as good, equally as useful, equally as helpful. Also free. I personally am a believer in the USCCA firearms concealed carry insurance. I am actually a owner and, or I'm sorry, a platinum member, as is my wife. I carry the insurance every month for different reasons. I'm a believer in their training. I'm a believer in the content that they develop. I'm a believer in USCCA completely and entirely, including their app. Um, Maybe. I do not know the answer to that question, but I wanted to post it up on here. So anybody who knows the answer to it, post up below, post in the comments, whatever the case may be, research and find out and let me know. That is a very interesting concept. And I do know that there are some states, like North Carolina's recognized in 36. Let's say, and I'm just making this up, okay? Let's say Wisconsin or Wyoming. Okay. Again, I'm just making this up. I don't know how true or whatever it is, but let's say that Wyoming's is actually recognized in 47 states. You're still not going to hit the gray states like, California and New York, et cetera, et cetera. But let's say there's 47 states that it's recognized in. And if you can get a permit in that state as a non-resident, that's great, but you also have to still research each individual state and see if they recognize non-resident concealed carry permits versus resident concealed carry permits. So, for example, I have a resident North Carolina permit, but if I'm traveling through Virginia, Virginia is obviously going to recognize a North Carolina resident permit, but do they recognize a North Carolina non-resident permit for somebody who lives in Tennessee but travels a lot to North Carolina, so they got a non-resident. So since I live in North Carolina, let's say Wyoming had 47 states that recognize them, but do all 47 recognize a non-resident permit since I don't live there? Okay, so that's just three. But hey, nothing good happens to Waffle House, brother. No, nothing good at 2 in the morning happens at the Waffle House except waffles. I'm just saying. But at any rate, so back to the story. So we're traveling up to Pennsylvania. Okay, we've done our research on the apps. We've got a general idea of what's going to happen. Now I'm going to go to a little more. Waffle House is mandatory. Amen. At all times of day and definitely not. And you might even want to armor up as well, particularly the way society's going right now with the peaceful protests that are going on all over America. So now another source, I'll go to the USCCA app or to the website itself. Again, so let's say I'm in Virginia, I'd click on Virginia, okay, or I'd click on North Carolina or whatever. So again, traveling North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, Maryland, scary, into Pennsylvania. Okay. So start with North Carolina is what I'm going to do. And you have to, yes, you can conceal carry, but there's with restrictions. You have to have a concealed carry permit here. Right. So, and then some rough percentages and numbers. You can actually see that unfortunately there's a lot less issue in North Carolina than there should as relates to the population. So per capita, there's a lot less concealed carry permits than there should be. They list 38 states. So the North Carolina website lists. So there's a good point. The North Carolina DOJ website, if you go through here and count these, and I think I did last night. Now y'all can keep me honest on this and go behind me and count it. That's 36. Okay. But USCCA says 38. So what does that mean? What does that mean? Right? I don't know. So that's an example of where I'm talking about you've got to do your homework and you've got to know the laws and you got to know and print it off before you go. Okay. Now, and I love this myth that's going around because there's an actual law in the books in North Carolina as relates directly to the KKK back in the days when that was a thing, and shame on them for existing. But and I don't care if anybody gives me hate comments below. Feel free, hate me right on up, because the KKK should not have existed. But setting that aside, that's what that law is in relation to. They did do a series of laws in North Carolina books, and I'm squirreling here a little bit, but that's a fun topic. They did a series of laws in the books where you could not wear a mask, but it was in commission of a crime, right? So long as you're a good guy, it doesn't apply. But there's been a lot of myth going around on Facebook about that. But at any rate, so you step through, and here's your laws. Okay, permitted. Some good blocks of information. Again, good idea to click on them and print them off, right? If you know you're going to be traveling in state parks and doing a tour of all the state parks in North Carolina, good idea to print that one off and have it with you, because North Carolina's law in 2015 actually changed. Used to, you could not legally carry on a national park. It was a felony, even though you could legally conceal carry in North Carolina before 2014 or 15, October 2014 or 15. You could not carry in a federal park without getting in severe legal trouble. Well, what if there's one of those cops out there who still hasn't caught up on, he doesn't know, and like, oh crap, that's right. Well, you got charged. You're going through all that, that kind of thing. So again, good idea to print those off. Point where I'm going through this is, so you step through all the laws, any state requirements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and print them off. Go to the source. Go to the regulation source, or go to that state's source, their Department of Justice, or call them and print them off from there. Do not print them off from USCCA or Legal Heat or CCW app. Print them off from the source of truth and take them with you. All right, so got my North Carolina laws lined up. I'm good. I'm solid. Then I'm going to check Virginia. Same deal. Okay, they recognize 35 states. Okay, well, I know I'm going to be stopping at a bar, so let's see. Can I drink? Can I carry in a bar? Where are we at? Yeah, I can carry roadside. Yep, I can carry in bars. Awesome, good deal. Boom, done. And I'm good. Again, I'm then going to print that code off. I'm going to go to the source of truth for Virginia, to either their code, the exact code, and print it from the most recent, or again, call them and print that off. Okay. Yeah, I like that. First Amendment, brother, we have the right to peaceful protest. Peaceful. That's fine. I'll do some of the research for you, and if you guys just listen to me, I'll only lead you moderately astray. Moderately astray. All right, so print off Virginia's laws. I'm good traveling through there. All right, and then same thing with West Virginia. I'm then going to check out West Virginia. Blah blah blah. Okay, now. And now again, notice that the map changes as though you live in that state. So now I want you to notice real quick that, so when I went into Virginia, you'll notice that Pennsylvania is grayed out. So I cannot carry if I have a Virginia permit in Pennsylvania. But if I'm in North Carolina, I can carry in Pennsylvania with restrictions. Yes, with restrictions. Okay. So then I have to research what those restrictions are once I get to PA. So again, free, just research the laws for Virginia, West Virginia as I'm traveling to Pennsylvania. Cool, no problem. This is an interactive map, no problem. But when I get to PA, I know I'm going to have to check and see. There's definitely some kind of restrictions I'm going to need to be aware of. And there's this little gray block of Maryland in between. But at any rate, so I got my Virginia laws, and you'll notice again, Pennsylvania does not accept Virginia's. That's okay, because I have a North Carolina. I'm good. Then I travel through West Virginia. Okay, what's their laws? Well, they got a lot of odd colors in there. Yes, with restrictions. Yes, with restrictions. Yes, with restrictions. So, but it's the other way around, right? So North Carolina, I don't have those restrictions. I am going to have to research West Virginia's laws, but West Virginia has restrictions when they're in North Carolina. Okay. So I'm then going to scroll down, research, print off the laws that are relevant to me. In the case of West Virginia, most of the time, the only thing I would do as I'm traveling to Pennsylvania is maybe stop at a restaurant or maybe stop at a rest area. So then I'm going to, so then it's very important to me to check those areas, to check roadside rest areas. Yep, I'm good. Okay. To check, restaurants that serve alcohol. Yep, I'm good. Okay, good deal. Can I do in the hotel? All right, yeah, but they can post. All right, cool, good deal, right? Can I store it in my vehicle in case I need to get out? Okay, good, right, perfect, spot on. Then I'm gonna plow right on through West Virginia. Now, Maryland. Woo, Maryland. Love you people. If there's anybody out there from Maryland watching this video, I'm praying for you. Thank you so much for being here and watching the video. If you are from Maryland, thank you for your support of this channel. Like, subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff. and I'm praying for you with regards to your rights to defend yourself as a human being. And I strongly encourage you that if you live in a state and are not willing to move out of that state that does not allow concealed carry or the freedom of the Second Amendment, for you to seek alternate training, such as Craig Douglas with ShivWorks, or Ed Calderon in his weaponology courses. Obviously physical um, training such as jujitsu, Krav Maga, things like that. I strongly encourage you, for the safety of yourself and for all of those you care about and anyone that you ever thought about caring about, to seek alternate forms of training that comply with your state's laws and regulations of the ability to be able to operate within that non-permissive firearms environment. But when I'm traveling through Maryland, so there's a 12-hour, when I'm traveling to Pennsylvania, I go up, I think, 64. So there's like a little 12-mile block, like right here. There's a little baby spot right there. I got to travel through Maryland to jump over to Pennsylvania. I am not a paranoid person. Okay. But as I mentioned at the beginning of this, I am heavily libertarian. I believe in the right for these individual places um, to have their rules and their laws and their voted, democratically voted and Republican or Republic protected rights and laws to do what they want to do in their area, their business, their state, whatever the case may be. So I am a firm believer that I will comply with the federal transport 926A laws, but I will comply with not concealed carrying or carrying in that state. I am not one of those people who will jump up and no, it's my life and I'll protect it and I'd rather risk it. I have too much to lose to risk for a 12-mile strip of land. There is, unless my car breaks down, you're talking 10 to 12 minutes. Okay. 10 to 12 minutes of my life is not worth everything I spent 48 years of building and 20, 30 years of my future of losing everything that I have in my life because of some obscure law that I don't necessarily agree with. So I would rather comply with the law for that 10 minutes and then get over it. So what I will do is I have a designated stop. It's one of the last exits going through West Virginia that I always stop at, hit the gas station, grab me a coffee or a soda, use the bathroom, and disarm. I take my gun apart. I take the ammunition completely out and generally even out of the magazine, rebox it back up in the original box it came in, lock it down to where I'm in compliance with the federal interstate traffic laws, put it as far away from me in the car as I possibly can, just way back at the back of the vehicle. And then I will run the gamut, make sure I'll fill up so that I don't even have to stop in Maryland under any circumstances whatsoever. I will not stop in a state that I'm not allowed to conceal carry in, period. If it's at all humanly possible, I will not stop. And so I gas up, drink up, and gun down, take my gun off. And then I run the gambit through Maryland and then right on into Pennsylvania. Okay. Now, the second I crossed the line into Pennsylvania, the first rest stop, the welcome center, the first gas station, whatever, and random exit where we go to the top of the exit ramp and then come back down onto the highway, wherever I can. As you can imagine, I immediately pull back over and I immediately gun back up. Okay, I go back to the back of the vehicle, reload my firearm, take it out of the lock, put it back on, because within North Carolina, I have reciprocity with Pennsylvania, so I am allowed to conceal carry in Pennsylvania, right? Now, there are restrictions, right? There are, as you can see, when I pick North Carolina, there's some laws there. So, but I am allowed to reciprocate and to carry inside of Pennsylvania. So that's what I'll do. I'll gun back up. And again, I've already printed off my laws for Pennsylvania. So real quick, just kind of jump through, see what kind of laws that are different from North Carolina. Just curious. Constitutional carry, whatever, taser, stun guns. Yep. Okay, so there's an interesting point right there. So it says that they do allow non-resident permitting. So that conversation we were just having about Wisconsin or whoever, or whatever the case may be, if you're a non-resident, it does work. I'm not seeing anything majorly different than North Carolina here. I'm looking. That's different. Okay, so in North Carolina, you have to notify a police officer if you get pulled over at your earliest feasible opportunity. Interesting. The no weapon signs is not enforced in Pennsylvania. I like that. They don't have brandishing. Interesting. Wow, they got some. Okay. Anyways, so point is, I get squirreled off on these laws. I love the laws and I love the mindset training. I love that stuff almost as much as I love going out to the range and actually putting a bunch of stuff down range. Um, you're what the midnight? Come on, you're ratting me out on YouTube to the world, dude. That is so uncool, man. That's some Blue Falcon stuff right there, bro. Blue Falcon. Um, so, um, anyways, back to what we're talking about. So again, I would print those off. I know where I'm going. I know the laws. So real quick, just to touch on a couple other topics, and then we'll kind of sweep the floors and lock the doors. There are a lot of good sites out there that you can go and do this research. Don't just take my word for it. You can check out the North Carolina, or I'm sorry, the NRA ILA resource for some of the transportation of firearms, whether it be TSA or Interstate. Concealed Carry did a great article about and I'm posting these up in the chat, by the way, did a great article about interstate travel in the 926A. I said I was going to post them up. Let's try this again. Okay. Yep. There we go. And then TSA. So TSA, I can tell you from personal experience, I have traveled on airplanes quite a few times with firearms. It is not as scary as you think. It is not as scary as you think. I'm going to do Masada Ayub's again just for grins and giggles because that's great information. It is not as scary as you think, okay? Now, I'm not going to go into that topic tonight because that's a topic for another day, maybe another live webinar that we can have with one another about transporting firearms and ammunition via TSA. But I can honestly tell you, I've never really had that much problems traveling with a firearm. I've had more problems with having to just wait for them to bring it out because you're always like the last one that they bring because it's all the bags get brought out and took care of and they have to come to you very, very, very specifically and, ID you and get back. I have more trouble just waiting for them to get around to me than I have the actual transport. Um, I mean, it's a plan. I mean, worst case scenario, that means that at no given time would you ever have to run more than a mile during that 12-mile trip to get to a defense or to get some type of defense. Well, half a mile, right? Because I mean, you get that point of no return. So theoretically, if you ran a mile, you just turn around and go the other way, and there's going to be a mile marker right there within a few feet. So, I mean, it's a plan. I would hide them under sombreros right on the mile markers. That would be perfection right there. So, all right, so I think I've covered quite a few of the topics. Now, again, this was mainly geared for those of you out there who are either new to firearms, new to traveling with a firearm, new to concealed carry, new to any of that world. And we touched on the topics again of just traveling, whether it's open carry or concealed carry, and the interstate travel laws of 926A, and what those legal constraints are. Again, following your least common denominator state and making sure that you've met that state's. Like for example, New York, we talked about. They have a lower capacity magazine restriction. So even though you're in compliance with 926A, theoretically, whether you're on a plane or in your car, something could actually get you from the side. No problem. It gives me anxiety too, which is another reason that I have spent so much time. In addition to the fact that I'm a law instructor with regards to concealed carry and use of deadly force laws, it gave me a lot of angst and anxiety as well in the beginning stages of concealed carrying and open carrying in other states. And so I did a lot of research, and hopefully some of this information is helpful to y'all. But so we went over all that about, the from that level down to concealed carry, doing your research on the path of the way you're going up through. We can do a separate session about traveling with TSA. Just understand that the only caveat I will throw in about TSA is understand, like we, the He-Man Women Haters Club or whatever. This is Little Rascals, baby. She's welcome. Anyone's welcome here. You're welcome. Always. We're always welcome. We appreciate everybody and the support of everybody for the channel. Kidding. Well, no, not kidding. Anyways, so let's say, again, understand that you could get diverted. Right. So understand your flight path just like you would understand your drive path, and potential hiccups of getting diverted, and where would you most likely get diverted to. So, for example, I mentioned that early on, get through TSA is actually easy, believe it or not. It's even gotten easier, like when you're flying Delta and stuff, where they've changed a lot of their laws, in particularly in relation to COVID-19. It's even gotten easier, right? I mean, unless there's a problem, they don't even contact you. You just sit outside in the lobby and wait an extra 15, 20, 25 minutes before you go through security. And again, we can talk about that on a different video on a different day. But just understand that you could get diverted, just like with driving in a car. What if I got diverted around Maryland into, gosh, I'm failing at geography here. What if I got diverted around West Virginia and had to hit up into Ohio and over to Pennsylvania? Well, did I allow for that, and did I plan for that? Did I research Ohio's laws in case I got diverted, or in case I decided not to drive through Maryland? Or in case I was just shooting over going to take a day trip over into Ohio with some of my friends from Pennsylvania. Did I research those or print those off and have them readily available? And am I meeting the least common denominator of those laws in that state? And then you're going to be just fine. What kind of SIG do we have? SIG, all SIGs are nice, aren't they? Okay, not all SIGs, but yeah, SIGs are awesome. But at any rate, and then so again, doing your research, getting that reciprocity, getting all that together, interstate travel laws, et cetera, et cetera. So I think I've covered the majority of the topic with regards to reciprocity and helping you understand. I've covered I also covered the use of deadly force in such a way that's going to blanket cover you in every state. Now, the tool and method of employment of that use of deadly force to protect, again, immediate and otherwise unavoidable danger of death or great bodily harm to the innocent. That method of delivery of that use of deadly force is going to vary, right? I mean, obviously, in New York, I can't have a pistol. I'd have to use, a hammer, I guess, a ball peen hammer, whatever the case may be, or my bare hands. 938, very nice, very nice, very nice. So, by way of sweeping the floors and closing the doors, I think and hope that I've covered everything I possibly can that was beneficial with regards to reciprocity. Is there any questions anybody has out there in the audience, or anything that any of you think that I may have forgotten or that I may not have covered in such a way that helps you to feel comfortable with this topic? If there is, leave it in the comments while I'm sitting here talking. And if by chance you're watching this in replay, or if I miss it, miss the question for whatever reason, and jump off here before it happens, leave them below, and I will get back to you. I will get back to you, even if I have to direct message you and do a little homework or a little research for your state if I have to, whatever the case may be. I am an instructor by trade, and an instructor first and foremost. I do it because I'm actually passionate about it. I don't do it necessarily for profit or money. I do it because I actually care, and I'm actually very passionate about Second Amendment, and I want to make sure that everybody is very well trained, not just that they have the ability to carry from the Second Amendment perspective, but that they have the knowledge, and that they are empowered with that knowledge to keep them safe and to keep them out of jail these days. So I'm not seeing any questions or anything else, and we've been going now for, gosh, how long have we been going, guys? 52 minutes. That's actually short for me. And I would imagine that most people who are watching this video, if they're watching it replay, won't make it more than 5 minutes with my voice, and then they're going to jump right off here and get annoyed. So I am going to round it up and sweep the floors and close the doors like I mentioned. For all of you who have joined me here tonight and all the participation and questions, I truly, truly, truly appreciate it. Again, if you haven't already followed, like, subscribe the channel, I really appreciate any support I can get. I am trying to bring y'all as much educational content as I can. And, unlike some of the bigger channels, I get nothing for all this other than just the joy of knowing that hopefully somebody out there somewhere can benefit from this information, and it will help them in their daily lives. So until I see you in person, or until I see you out on the range again, you keep living your dream.